Hey and welcome, Miss Kira Speaks. Before we get started, I ask that you watch the videos till the end, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. We're back again for another episode of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 4, Big Apple Squabbles. As the episode opens up, we see Marlo in Decatur with her builder, Patrick. Marlo is having a home built for her and the boys. Patrick had to take 1,500 square feet off to get the numbers where she wanted them. I hope not my closet. And as Sheree and Kenya pull up, Marlo says she's invited some baby builders. Child, not baby builders. One took 20 years to build her house, and the other one is still building. The shade. The producers are giving us some footage of the journey. Marlo in her confessional says she wants to learn more from their successes instead of their mistakes. Marlo has her own floor, and Kenya's like, your closet is bigger than your bedroom? And Marlo's like, that is just perfect for me. So they're looking at a house close by, and Kenya seems impressed that Patrick knows his stuff. After he leaves, the ladies chat it up, and Sheree can't believe she's moving out so far. Marlo says she's a Buckhead girl, but her income can't afford it. Marlo's like, you girls say I'm so rich. Kenya reminds her, you brought up money at your party. You're known for money and fashion? And they pull up the clip to prove it. And Marlo, she looked like she was about to have a moment, but Kenya, she stays calm. She tells her she loves the house, and Marlo admits that she loves when Kenya gives her compliments. The ladies talk the New York trip, and Sheree asks Kenya if she's going to see Mark while they're there. Kenya says she's just going to have the au pair drop Brooklyn off. I hear that. Kenya asks Sheree if she'll get to see Tyrone while she's there. Sheree says he's trying to come. He put in the request with his PO. In her confessional, Sheree reminds us he's under house arrest. He has to be in the house by 9 p.m. and he can't travel further than 100 miles. And I'm thinking, damn, what time is the play? Philly's a few hours from New York, and if he has to be in by 9... They briefly discuss Drew, and Sheree says she's going to go to New York and enjoy herself. She feels like Drew wanted the drama, and Kenya says it seems like she has enough going on in her life. Marlo says, Drew's good at deflecting. Kenya is disappointed that she'd attacked Sheree at Brooklyn's party, but luckily, Brooklyn didn't seem to have a care in the world. The Tuckers are going for a walk, and they're talking about business. Todd says he's got a lot going on and he needs support. Candy talks the play, and she says sales are picking up. She suggests to Todd that he invite Ralph. The show is about black men, and the ladies seem to get along better when the guys are around. Or so Candy says. Todd was thinking, while they're in New York, they can swing by the Jersey crib. And yes, my non-New Yorkers, Jersey is a hop, skip, and jump away from Manhattan. Candy wants no parts of a place he had from a previous relationship, and Todd says it's whack. It's their place to fix up and space for the kids when they're in New York. Candy says, where's her key? Candy now, behave. She says she wants to be able to stay in a hotel, mess it up, leave, and not have to worry about it. Now I felt her on that one. When I'm on vacation or away, I don't want to have to worry about cleaning up. Todd feels like Candy is being selfish. In her confessional, Candy says Todd wanting her to be excited about the condo is almost like rewrapping a gift he gave to his ex-girlfriend, and now she's supposed to be excited about it. So we gone over to Drew's house, and Anthony is still there trying to be off camera. The producer asks Drew how probation works in her household. Drew says they run their business like a corporation, and there are steps to firing people. And in business, yes, but in your household, And the people still want to know why you need 4 assistants and how you can afford them. Dr. Ken stops by for a therapy session with Drew and Ralph. And now, remind me what other show that he was on. Drop it on down in the comments for me, please. In her confessional, Drew reminds us that after their bad date night, that Ralph moved into their son's room. When things are really bad, they sleep apart. So when Dr. Ken gets there, he asks how everything's going. Drew tells him Ralph did a dinner for her and she felt like a queen. But Ralph didn't receive it because he feels like Drew doesn't respect him or appreciate him. He calls her insatiable. He says he gave her steak and lobster when she deserved a Lunchable. It's the audacity for me. Dr. Ken tells Drew he wants her to live in the moment, which was one of the only things that he said that I agree with. But at the same time, when you're dealing with a narcissist like Ralph, he's only going to be happy when you do and respond the way he wants. Dr. Ken points out that Drew deflated the night. Ralph agrees, and Doc says he can see how Ralph was hurt. Drew says there's all these things that haven't been resolved, and how can you truly be in bliss when it's not real? She wants him to take ownership of things. Ralph calls it one-sided and brings up Drew saying that Dr. Ken called him a maniac. Dr. Ken says, next time you're in a conversation, leave Dr. Ken out. Keep my name out your mouth. Because it doesn't matter what he says, it only matters what they say. Dr. Ken points out that they attack each other and it's time for a change. He gives them a therapeutic agreement. In 30 days, no combative conversation under any circumstances. If the person blows it for 24 hours, it's whatever he wants. Even if it's sex 5 times a day, you will be his servant. Now, what kind of therapist says something like that? Even Drew's face was like, what is going on? If you don't like it, don't blow it. He can take care of everything with the kids. Whatever you tell him to do, he has to do for 24 hours. You notice how the rewards are different? I was not feeling Dr. Ken. Drew says they're headed for New York and she's ready to put the agreement into action. Kenya is packing at home when she gets some visitors. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch Candy and the Gang yet, so I didn't realize that that was Candy's cousin and his fiance. Miss Ma'am is dressed scantily clad as we see them show up at Drew and Sonya's house, also bearing gifts. It's mandatory that they bring them on the trip, and it's some treats from Bedroom Candy. Candy is a businesswoman, okay, and y'all gonna get this promotion and marketing, period. Drew and Sonya, they seemed a little more down for it, while Kenya was looking for a playbill. Marlo was getting ready when Drew calls her about the treats from Candy. Marlo was like, no, I didn't get that. Kenya calls Sheree and tells her what had happened. Does it have anything to do with the play, Sheree asked? Marlo asked Drew, you want to see my drawers? In her confessional, Marlo says she's not surprised. Her thing is shopping. Candy's thing is sex. So we see Miss Candy, and Candy says the ladies are late for everything, so she got them a Sprinter so they could ride to the airport and get there on time. No one is missing this flight. Drew and Ralph show up, and then Sonya and Ross, and when Kenya gets on the Sprinter, she's like, nobody told her it was a couple's trip. Then the producers, who get a gold star this season, these producers says, y'all not about to drag their name through the mud like y'all did last season. They play back footage from Brooklyn's birthday party when Kenya asks, is it a girl's trip? And Candy says, if you got a date, bring them. Sheree in her confessional says, it's a little awkward being around Drew and Ralph, but if they act up, she got receipts. Everyone is on the Sprinter, and Candy asks if they enjoyed their gifts. Candy says she just likes to have fun. They arrive in New York, and you know the hotel looks wonderful, and Candy has food for the ladies. While they're eating and they're chatting, Todd says they're going to have a competition for Suite B on the penthouse level. Candy wants to know who has the best sex story. Next, let's get into these tall tales that the people was telling. Sonya says they did it on the plane, headed to Dubai, and they're part of the Mile High Club. Maybe. And here comes Marlo. She did it at the zoo with a giraffe watching, and he licked her face. Marlo says they wanted a freaky story, and so she gave them one. Sheree says Ritz-Carlton, Miami, in broad daylight. Everyone was there. Ralph says they were in the DR in the ocean with the whales. Candy says y'all must have been out far, and Sheree, she ain't believing it. And then Kenya, she weaves us a tale. She tells the tale of her and a hunter driving out to an area where there are coyotes. He tagged the coyote, and then they followed it into the cavern and they had sex. But the coyote was still alive. Child, Kenya swears it's a true story. Drew's like, just go ahead and give her the room. Candy says it's BS, but she gives her the room for imagination. So later, getting ready, Sonya, she's chatting it up with Ross. Now Ross, he looks a little bit like Lance Gross to me. Or is it just me? Sonya, she hopes that the energy stays up. She brings up how Drew and Sheree got ugly at Brooklyn's party. She feels it went a bit too far with Drew putting her hand in Sheree's face, and I agree, and everybody was worried. Sonya wants to know why Drew has such a hard time cutting ties with an assistant that was talking ish about Sheree. In her confessional, she says if you have an assistant that's being messy with one of your friends, chances are you are equally as messy. And it has her looking at Drew sideways. Sheree meets up with Marlo, and Marlo wants to know why they have to go to Todd's furnishless condo. Jokes. You don't think Todd's sneaking off doing nothing? Marlo asks. So they start talking, and I'm thinking, we don't know what Todd and Candy got going on. So let's stay out of these married folks' business. Whatever it is they're doing, I'm sure there's no sneaking involved. So Sheree, she asks Marlo who she thinks is the second freakiest couple. Marlo says, probably Drew and Ralph, and then we see Drew and Ralph talking about this doggone challenge. They talk the tea party, and Drew feels like Sheree puppeteered her friend into saying something about Ralph. And I don't get why Drew doesn't understand that her assistant is the problem. So we see everyone getting ready, and they hop in the Sprinter and they're on their way to Todd's condo. Candy says the condo is not so convenient, and Todd, he likes to hang out. So they run back some footage, and then Sheree says maybe Candy has a reason to be cautious. Really? Sonya asks Candy if she has insecurities when Todd is out. Candy says she does at times, and Sonya says then that's a problem. In her confessional, Sonya says she's surprised, but now she can see why there's tension about the condo. Todd is a New Yorker. He's from there, and he's always on her turf in Atlanta with her family and everything that makes her comfortable. When they come to New York, he needs to let him do his things. And the group seems to be in agreement. And I will say, Todd does express and articulate himself very well, so I get it. She's doing big things that don't include him, and when she's always the focal point, she doesn't realize when she's not being attentive to the needs of others. Kenya says, yeah, she has to work on that. Todd 2, Candy 0. In her confessional, Kenya says Todd is supportive, Candy is strong and spoiled. Candy tries to defend herself. Everything she does helps all the other things that they want to do. It's a struggle of growth to fit in. It's kind of what Todd says. So they arrive at the condo, and Todd says, be open-minded. Nobody's lived here in 2 years. And as Marlo says, it's unfurnished. Marlo walks in and says, yeah, keep this. Kenya says, hire her. And she puts on her little builder's cap in the confessional. Kenya's like, close this, put a fireplace here, square this off, open this up, let in some more light. In her confessional, Kenya says, let her come in and redo the condo. It was cool for the average Joe, but for a celebrity, now Kenya, she had all the ideas, and she definitely could be on HGTV. And the view is amazing. And Marlo, she basically says the same thing. They got a nice view, but all of this needs to be redone. She wonders if Candy feels away because this is something that Todd accomplished with someone else. Sonya says she doesn't feel any bad energy there, and she asks Candy how she feels now that she's there. Candy, she doesn't see the purpose of wanting to stay there. Todd in his confessional is like, everybody's on my side, and he just wants something to leave to the kids. And my final thoughts on the condo in this episode is absolutely keep the condo. What's Kayla got going on? Isn't she in New York? Or they can keep it for family that's visiting that doesn't want to be in the city. Or at the very least, they can Airbnb that thing. They arrive for dinner at this beautiful restaurant. I've never been there before. You know, let me add that to my list. Got it. And Candy has pre-selected a menu that sounds so doggone good. Sonia asks Candy and Drew why they're not wearing their wedding rings. Candy's like, she don't really wear her ring like that, but Todd, he has his on. What about you, Drew? And you know, Drew, she always has a story. First it didn't fit after the babies, and then when it did, they had their issues, and so she never put it back on. Then production, they show us a clip where she barely wears her ring, I guess. That's what they wanted us to believe. So then Drew, she tells them about this 30-day agreement, and Sonia's like, good luck. And Candy's like, they gonna have to repeat that a few times. So then Candy asks, what happened with the assistant? Ralph's like, I had to fire the assistant. Kenya asks Drew what's wrong. Drew's like, she's still emotionally dealing with it. Ralph, he wants to know how you finally get over it and move past it. Time, Kenya and Drew says, and reassuring behavior, Kenya adds. Candy's like, you know it look crazy, right? Ralph's like, yeah, if you don't understand the context behind it. Drew's like, let's not go there. You have to own your part. Kenya tells Ralph, you remind me so much of Mark. It's crazy. Yikes. But she's not wrong. Kenya tells him she doesn't want to feel invalidated. She doesn't want you to be defensive and call her crazy. And in her confessional, Kenya says she's trying to see Drew for who she is, and she sees someone that's hurt. Ralph's like, I wasn't like, let me just grab an assistant with a big butt. He's so toxic, y'all. We were having growing pains as we were trying to deal and do business together. That's even more so what makes it worse, Candy says. To have a woman working around you closely and think she's not going to feel a way? While Drew is talking to Ralph, Marlo's like, I'm staying single. Kenya's like, he's an asshole. I see how he speaks to her. And it reminds me of how when Mark used to speak to me like that. And production, they rolled a footage titled The Original Gaslight, a prequel by Mark Daly. Ralph's like, he doesn't want to recount it. And Kenya, she jumps in and she was like, if you were my husband and you said that to me, I would flip this table. That's disrespectful. What you're saying is she's lying, and how it happened is not how it happened. That would piss me off, especially if you said it to my face and I'm hurting. You're tearing her down. In her confessional, Drew says Kenya is expressing exactly how she feels, and she hopes that Ralph understands and sees where they ended up. You know, y'all trying to mess around and make me like Kenya. This is my first time reviewing Real Housewives of Atlanta, and I was reluctant because I didn't like Kenya, and one of her stands had already come for me another season on Twitter when I wasn't even reviewing it. Since the show started, I vowed not to be biased, but this season it seems that Kenya may have passed that villain crown to Marlo perhaps, and she comes across so much better. For her to feel that way and to express it when her and Drew are just hitting the restart button, love it. Real, honest, compassionate. Anyway, Ralph starts laughing and Kenya is not amused. What's the laugh for? He's still laughing. He asks Todd, what was it you were going to say? Kenya's like, no, don't do that. Marlo's like, well, Drew, he's only doing what you allow. And I mean, yeah, but... And Kenya admits, Drew can't let things go. The things that she accuses you of, she also does. Drew, she's confused, and Kenya's like acknowledging when you're wrong? About what? Drew asks. Child. The issue with you and Sheree, Kenya says. And pause. Yes, you do teach people how to treat you, but when you're dealing with a narcissist, the only thing you can do is leave. So let us not victim blame. And as far as how Drew behaves and treats others, that's just apple and oranges. You can't even compare those two things. Drew says, she's the type of person, don't start none, won't be none. But if you bring it to me, it's gonna go. Sheree's like, and I'm the same way. And Drew continues, and I'm gonna finish it. Sheree's like, well, you ain't finished it though. Drew says, she doesn't play those games, and no one around the table would accept someone talking about their husband. Candy points out, you do realize it was your assistant that originated the statement. Drew's like, we don't have any evidence of that. And why she say that? Sheree, she pulls out her phone and she's like, This is a picture of Dennis and Ralph, and the assistant said that he has more scoop on Ralph. Sheree's like, so I'm making this up because he already told me that you were gay. That what? Ralph asked. And Ralph, he just shakes his head. Folks look uncomfortable, and then they show us Todd gulping down his beer. And that is where we end. Child, to be continued. What did you guys think of the episode? Drop on down in the comments and let me know. It got good and heated up at the end, and I think this has ended up being more of a review than a recap, but what you gonna do? If you have made it this far, put that Statue of Liberty emoji down in the comments for New York. I hope you'll come back and join me for my recap or review of episode 5. While you're here, please check out some of my other content. Thank you. And before you go, like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you. Peace.